Okay, welcome everyone. This starts the ad hoc training committee of the, or ad hoc training subcommittee of the Commission on Police Practices. So I thought we would get started. I'll share my screen. I took the liberty of creating a little summary document. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so based on the desire from Chair Tran to kind of have us support in doing the scheduling for the next few trainings, because staff is busy and the cabinet's already pretty committed. So we've started having exchanged some emails, and I thought it'd be nice to just have everything in one place so we all know what's happening. And first training that's going to be scheduled, Brandon has been taking the lead on that, to have PERT come and do a presentation, and the schedule can accommodate that on May 1st with Mark Marvin and, oops, I think it's West, not West, Albers. And then we're expecting some materials from them by April 23rd. I don't know, is there anything else we need to kind of talk about with respect to that, Brandon?
I don't think so. Yeah, we've given them a list of some questions that we think that would be good for them to cover. They are going to be updating a PowerPoint and sharing that with us. They're going to hopefully get those to us by the 23rd. And then the idea is I think we'll have anywhere from about 30 minutes for their presentation and about 15 minutes for a Q&A.
Okay. All right. And then I think there might have been a different understanding that I had than maybe was conveyed in the email. So the only other training I'm taking right now that would be in person, that would take meeting time, is the Police Officers Bill of Rights, because I thought that the other two things that we had suggested were videos that commissioners would complete on their own. Is that what you all thought?
I think, yeah, so what I had done is I had reached out to Alina on staff because we had heard that she might be working on creating a video about the timekeeping system. So I think she's working on that, but I think she was also trying to get some feedback from the executive director. So I don't think she's done it yet, but I believe that's something that's in process. But yeah, so I think the idea is the NACOL ethics and the decorum, I think is something we can pretty much do separately. And then I think there might be a little tiny piece we might want to have, Doug or someone. Doug, as the second vice chair, is officially kind of the Robert's Rule of Order, commission parliamentarian. He can speak about that if we need to. But I think that's something, especially since we have 4 new commissioners that weren't part of that process when we had it before. But the idea is we don't want to waste time of the full commission when there's something that, like the timekeeping. I mean, that's probably not very beneficial for the community. So I don't think it's really helpful for the community to have to sit there for 20 minutes about how do we keep our time. But I think, even the ethics might be something that, we can share that link publicly so they all have access to that. But I think the other ones, the PERT, the POBAR, I think is probably the bigger things that would be helpful for the community and the commission. And then, as Yasmin had shared on our last meeting, our sister committee is still working on some of the operating rules. And so until we have that done, some of the training that we were suggesting that would specifically relate to case review, we're going to put that on hold until we know exactly what they're proposing with those rules.
The one thing is I did email Olga about that and ask her input, and she thought the ones that we had put asterisks on would still be good to do. So I don't know if we want to follow up on that at all. But I mean, part of it is because I have no idea what's in the works.
Sure.
I was thinking maybe Olga did, but I didn't ask that specific question. And I can do that again. I can say, hey, Olga, will this be impacted? Like, are these things relevant regardless of what our operating procedures end up being?
Yeah,
can
I think
ask
some of them
that.
are, and I'm trying to pull up our agenda for the meeting because if we have, let me scroll through, if we have a few minutes to, no, we don't. I was gonna say if there's a training kind of report out, I was gonna say we might be able to ask the commission what their thoughts are on that, but we don't look like we're on the agenda for the meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just follow up with Olga because she should get back to me on that. Okay. And then the last thing I put on here is that we do have kind of this outstanding issue right now where we've reached out to Captain Peterson about trainings that San Diego PD has that might be open to commissioners. And that's something, I don't know, that might happen sooner. So I just, because it's kind of like an outstanding issue, I just stuck it here because I didn't think where else it could go.
Yeah, and those, I've only done one in the past, but and we'll have to see what the department is willing to let the commission do. But
Right.
in the past, I think it was the majority of training that officers have available to them, we were able to go to as well. The one I did was how they do, I think it's like 11,550. It's like the code for,
Mental health.
it's, I think
Commit.
specifically
Mental health
it's,
commit.
no, that's the 5150. This one, it's the 11,550, which is specifically about how they interact and arrest people for being under the influence of controlled substances. So, I mean, that was just one I was interested in, so I went to that. But it's helpful, and some of them are very short. Some of them are as short as 3 hours, but that's not something that I think the commission would do as a meeting. I think it's something if we choose to do that individually on our own, we can go do that. But what Darlene was basically saying is we're waiting to hear back from the department on what we can do and the process of doing that. So I think he's just waiting for the higher ups to let them know what they've decided.
Okay. So you think that, is there anything else that we should be following up on, Brandon, that you know of?
I think these are the biggest issues for right now. I think once we hear back from Olga, our chief investigator, if she thinks some of those topics are still relevant, I think we can put some of the case review training back in. The idea from when we had our meeting last week is if we could at least get some potential training topics kind of penciled out, so we would have, say 2 months of ideas for training topics during our commission meetings. That would put us in a good position to at least start getting this rolling, and then we can kind of follow on with additional trainings after, because some of them we think we're going to need more lead time to prepare, whatever the educational topics are. If we need to do presentations to coordinate people to come in, some of them will need a little more time. But I think for now, this is probably pretty good.
Okay.
Anyone
All
else
right.
have? All right.
Right. You want to move on to special topics then?
Sure.
Okay. I'm trying to remember where we're at on this. Is this big enough for you all to see?
If we can make it a tiny bit bigger.
It might be a little more than tiny for me.
Maybe do 150.
How's that?
It works for me, Dwayne.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So I think
we're
I'm
down-
trying to. Oh, here
I
we
think we had a note of where we finished.
go. Okay.
I think.
Oh yeah. Okay. So here's where we had some outstanding issues. So the implicit bias that NACOL provided, Brandon, you were going to pre-screen that, see how relevant it was to our work exactly.
If I've not done, I'm going to make a note of that.
Okay. And then Lupe and Yasmin were investigating other options.
I've not done that. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't realize we're presenting this today.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
But we're looking at this next week for sure, yes?
I think, yeah, that'll be the plan. If we can, any homework items we have on this, if we can bring it back to the full commission, maybe at our next meeting would be probably
Okay.
ideal.
full commission or the committee?
The
I was
committee.
the committee next week, but I was gonna say if we can then present it to the full commission shortly thereafter,
The
it'd probably.
first?
I have a feeling the first is gonna be a pretty busy schedule, especially if we have the perk coming in. So maybe the one after that.
Okay.
That's also. And can you drop the link for this document in the chat, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Let's see.
If
Sorry,
you-
just takes
yeah,
me a
yep.
second.
No, you're good. Also, I kind of just saw which one it is. I just
Are you good now? Because I'm having trouble. Oh, wait, here we go, maybe. There we go.
Yeah, I think you did copy the link.
I did, but then I needed to, there was a message that I'm sharing my screen that was in my way. I couldn't see to get to the chat, but now I got it. I think you got, did everybody? Yeah, I sent it to the right thing. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right, and I can follow up with Doug again. I don't think I got resolution about that. All right. And then we wanted to refine this rebuilding community, the trust between the community and us, really. And we wanted to refine that based on the community forum, and I wasn't at the community forum. So who is that to do? Oh, and Brandon, you were connecting with Doug and Kate about that?
I did get some emails back for them. I think I shared them with you, but I can pull that up. They did have some resources that they were
Sorry,
recommending.
I skipped to the next thing. That wasn't for this part. So who's the best person to incorporate the community forum stuff into this document, like what the objective and purpose would be?
For that you said objective and purpose. I already have some. I think I have that. Isn't it included in the document I urgently added?
You urgently added?
Sorry, I originally
added.
Oh. Oh, maybe in these training proposals?
Possibly.
This one?
Maybe. Check. If not, I'm
Okay.
yeah, I have purpose, but I can get it tuned a little bit more if needed.
Well, maybe we should just stick with this for now until we're ready to actually, well, I don't know. What do you think's missing here?
I mean, I don't know if does it cover the objective? Let me read it. I'm trying to focus on.
Make it bigger.
This workshop will allow commissioners. Oh yeah. I think it's pretty solid.
Okay. You know, there was nothing that was raised during the community forum that's missing, is my question.
Missing from this? Oh. No, I mean, the way this description is written, it's general enough that it kind of covers any specific concerns, but I think nothing specific comes to mind. No.
Okay. All right. Well, I can put that in there. I don't have to do it while we were on the call. Okay. I'll just put it. Okay. Whoops. All right. That in there. Okay. And now I guess that was good. Now here's the thing. Doug and Kate to get more details about what the civil or human rights or criminal justice thing. And then
So-
here.
And I can add these afterwards as well, because we had shot some emails back and forth, but we just never added to this document. So one of the, oh, where'd this go? One of the resources was Julia Yu. She's the president of the National Police Accountability Project. We've
For
actually-
for this specific thing.
Yes. It's to yeah, there you go. And then sorry, there's a whole bunch of emails. I'm just trying to find. There's a couple others.
But I think we need to have the objective and the purpose in here so we know like what we're asking these people to do
Right.
specifically.
I think from kind of some of the conversations, and Brendan, you also would probably know a lot about this since Kate and you all worked on this. But from what I know is these folks would kind of come in and give a different perspective on what are some of the like best, not just best practices, but also what is happening when it comes to civilian human rights, civil rights, and law enforcement. And maybe address some of the best practices of how we can protect civil and human rights with interactions with law enforcement nationwide. And then maybe what's happening in San Diego, or what are people seeing happen in San Diego law enforcement when it comes to civil and human rights.
I don't know, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
And then what would the purpose be?
And I think it would just be to give the community and the commission. I mean, I would say it's going to be a high level. I mean, a high level overview of civil and human rights as it relates to law enforcement. Or maybe like the application of law enforcement on the community or something like that.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think that's probably good.
Okay. All right, and then the same as the panel presentations. All right, so I think this is,
I think those are the same.
I think in a lot of ways they are similar. I think the panel though is, correct me if I am not remembering this correctly, but I think the idea is we wanted to kind of have that first one, and then afterwards we were going to have kind of like a round table. So we'd have different people from different areas, you know, and maybe looking at, you know, the overall concept from different angles, and that way we could get different perspectives. So rather than just kind of here's how, you know, civil and human rights, you know, play out in criminal justice, and then the next one is kind of more of a roundtable of how people have been impacted by various aspects of, you know, how law enforcement is applied to various members of the community, things like that. So I think they're similar but yet different. I think the idea on this one is it's more of a broader, more inclusive group is kind of my thought, and that was my recollection. I don't know if you guys think of something different or if you remember differently.
I see it similar and a little bit different. I see the people we have on both, basically both sections, I see those merged as one, which is professionals in the field or advocates in the field that are doing this work. But for me, I see the roundtable that you're talking about more of impacted people. So these are not necessarily folks who are lawyers or like mental health providers or etc. Those are people who are directly impacted by like they had directly been impacted by mental health issues and law enforcement. They are young people who have experienced interactions with law enforcement. They are unhoused who have etc. So that's why I'm seeing, I think both of what we have are merged, because I'm looking at the list of people: Jim Waller, Julia, Tatiana, everyone. Those are kind of professionals, not, while they may also be impacted, but they're known as professionals in the field. So I would merge both of these in one and then create the second one as the roundtable.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do 1A, kind of like how I've done before, and 1B, like that. Is that what you're saying? Even though they won't be one, I'll renumber everything, but these two go together?
Um,
Or is there a third thing?
what I was saying is literally
Oh, I think she froze.
Yep.
combine the objectives and purpose into one, and then create a third one that's specific to roundtable, and capture what some of the things that Brandon was Commissioner Hilpert was mentioning. But I don't know if Commissioner Hilpert meant something else.
You can just say Brandon. I'm not that formal. No, I think that it makes sense. Is we'll merge those two together essentially.
Well, I would rather have them be distinct things and we do
Okay.
A, B, C, because it can be the same presentation, but
Just different components.
so we make it clear what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I
Because that's how we've done all the other ones. That's why, for consistency. But do
I
you
think
think
it will be different days actually. Like those are two separate things. And I see 1A and 1B as repetitive because it says civil and human rights and criminal justice, and then the bottom one says civil and human rights, criminal justice.
I think, and I'm kind of thinking of two different things. I get what we're all saying, but also I keep hearing when we bring this to the full commission that there's too many things there. And when they're, I mean, Gloria, Chair Tran has basically said, since things are similar, she wanted to see them merge together. So I'm also just trying to be a little cognizant of the fact that when we present this to the full commission, that might be one of the pieces of feedback we get is to merge them together. But
well, they are merged together because they all will have a same number, right?
yeah, I mean, and I think we can just try to
We
explain
lost
that.
Yasmin though.
I think she froze again. So maybe what we just do is, Darlene, to your point, is we just have a 1C or whatever the number is, and maybe we just call that the roundtable. And then we can figure out who we want to have. And then we're going to Yasmin's point, and she can help reach out as community engagement coordinator. Maybe we then have people that have been impacted by those various components, and then they can kind of share their experiences. Whereas she was saying the people we've already identified, they're more subject matter experts, maybe not necessarily people who have had that experience with law enforcement.
So what is this panel then? I don't get it. Help me understand.
I think the idea is, I mean, and this is something I was saying, I think Yasmin could probably help us try to find some of those people where in those various categories, members of the community who have been impacted directly by law enforcement as someone who maybe struggles with mental health or, the unhoused individuals or things like that. I think maybe that was where we were trying to go with that. Yasmin,
But isn't that what these people, Michelle Woodson, Genevieve Jones-Wright, and Tatiana Klein, will be speaking on behalf of those impacted people, right? Like, why do we need a roundtable too? If I'm someone who has had issues, I don't know if I want to be speaking in front. Like, that's kind of personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's something we can leverage Yasmin on as well as community outreach, to see if people want to come in. In the past, we've had a few, and to your point, sometimes people don't want to talk about it. But I think what she was saying, and I would tend to agree, is that individuals we've selected tend to be subject matter experts and leaders in those areas that may not have actually had that direct impact upon them. But I mean, and I could totally be speaking incorrectly too. Maybe they have. I mean, I know Genevieve has been very vocal, especially with her work with the gang commission. Yes,
So
I
I
know-
guess my question is to kind of address a couple things. One is if the list that we're making for potential trainings is too robust, like what do we seriously need? Like maybe we need to not be throwing everything in the kitchen sink and we need to hone it down. Like what do commissioners really need to know with respect to civil or human rights and interacting with police?
I can chime in. I think there is value and benefit from hearing from people directly impacted. And I think we've saw this, for example, when we did the community hearing on the 6th, like people did want to come out and share their direct experience. And I think there's value hearing from people who work in this field and are experts because they're able to zoom out and tell us about what is happening on a community level, not just on an individual level. So I actually think there's value in both. Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess we need an objective and purpose for all three things. One is the high level, either Jim Waller or Julia Yu thing. Then the next thing we need is the objective and purpose for the advocates. And then we need the objective and purpose for the roundtables. And maybe what you're saying is that the objective and purpose is the same for all three. Is that what you're saying?
No, I can make a quick recommendation on how to consolidate. So if you scroll up really quickly, I would put Jim and Julia under Tatiana and the rest
Oh, okay.
because they're all in the same bucket. I see them at least. I wasn't the one who put Jim and Julia. I think those are recommendations from Kay. Am I right, Brendan?
Jim, I think Jim was not a Kate recommendation. Julia is someone that I think Doug officially shared that, but then also our executive director has worked with her as well. And I want to say Jim Waller, I think we got from Sharon Farley, I believe.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So they're basically still experts.
Yes.
And then I would take the okay.
Sorry.
No,
I'm-
you're good.
I think
I
I'm
was
doing what
gonna-
I'm doing what you're telling me to do, right?
Yes, perfect. Go for it. And then the 1C, just put that under 1B and get rid of 1C.
Mhm.
There we go.
Like that. Sorry, it gets a little weird with my formatting. Sorry, just trust me. I'll
You're
fix the
good.
formatting. And then these are
And the objectives are
There we go.
now accurate.
okay. Okay.
Does this
So-
look good?
I don't know. Okay. Oh, I can.
We can
Tweak
wordsmith
that
it a little bit later too.
Okay. Oh, and
So-
now, so do you, so I had a question of, all these topics in one is okay? Doing criminal justice or mental health, all of that in one?
I think if we do one panel, but we have a good chunk of time, like an hour and a half to 2 hour time frame, maybe this is outside the meeting, maybe it's during a meeting, that would be good. We can have one question per person, maybe 15 to 20 minutes per advocate, and then have 4 to 5 people in total max.
Okay, yeah, this is like a list. It wouldn't be all of these people necessarily.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Does everybody feel good about that? And I can kind of tweak the purpose and the objective on that a little bit better. If anybody has any wordsmith ideas for me. Okay. Oh, what about the refugees? Would that be in the previous one?
I think we just run the risk if we put too many things in there. I think there's
Okay.
it's a lot of information. And to your point, it's similar, but yet I think it's still different. So I think
Okay.
some of the ones we had in that last one, I mean, that's a lot to put in there, but I think at least makes sense. I think with refugees and the refugee community, I think that's kind of a different subset. And I think they have a unique set of circumstances. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably break them out. And I think the thing with like individuals with disabilities, I know quite a while ago we had a presentation because say for example, if someone's hard of hearing and a police officer yells at them, stop, but they don't hear, obviously, how do the police deal with that? So because I think there was a complaint that came up because someone didn't hear that they were being given a command and they were thrown to the ground. So I think things like that, they're different. They're still very important topics, and I don't want to like basically merge everything together and we're just giving a super high level thing. I think we need to try to make sure we can give each topic the time it needs. But yeah, I also don't want to have hundreds of meetings for every little subset, because that I think gets a little overwhelming as well.
Yeah, can I add the autistic community? They're called differently now, like neurodiverse community. I think that is also under disabilities or neurodiverse, I think is the is the term they're using nowadays. I think that's what I'm familiar with. I think the library system is working with events for neurodiverse folks that are in the spectrum disorder or in the spectrum, as you would call it, ASDs to be called. Because they can also have issues when they encounter with law enforcement.
I wanted to also add, I think I definitely agree with Brandon on keeping them separate, because I also think there's benefit in potentially hearing how can we as a commission be more accessible, and what are the things that we can do when working with refugee communities or communities with disabilities, etc. um and like, how do we make our communication accessible? How do we make, like, there's pieces to that may come under this training that we can also benefit from. And with refugees, if I would recommend adding refugee, immigrant, and maybe undocumented.
How's that?
I think it's good.
All right.
Sorry,
And then
I
who
would
are the presenters?
I would add to that, a piece of it is understanding how to be accessible and us working with folks, but also another piece is understanding their experience with law enforcement and some of their challenges with law enforcement, as well as different communities.
And Yasmin, I think for who would possibly be a presenter for that topic, is that something you can help us with? Because I know as part of kind of the community outreach piece, you might already have some relationships there. Is that something you can help identify people for us on there?
Yes, absolutely. People that come to mind already is PANA, Majdal Center, Alliance.
What was the other one you said?
Majdal, the Arab Community Center of San Diego. Majdal.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Oh, and I have the American Service,
Yes.
the American Friends Service Committee that serve the undocumented or the migrants that are coming in across the border right now. It's been interviewed a lot on TV. I forget his name, but he can also share some perspectives on the on the not just undocumented, but the asylum community that are coming, quite a numbers of them.
I would also add Haitian Bridge Alliance.
Yeah,
And
course.
Somali Family Services.
Is it the Pan-African organization? I think that's in City Heights. I forget, because I used to work with the Pan-African community at one of the health centers in City Heights. I think they have an organization there too.
PANA stands for the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, and they work with a lot of East African communities.
Oh, okay. The Somalian and okay, cool.
They've actually done presentations to the commission in the past.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who might have had that connection, so we could reach out to the same person. But
I have all those connections. Yeah.
Pan Asian, what?
No, sorry, I dropped it in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Partnership
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Advancement of New Americans.
I knew that. I should
It's
have
okay, I
remembered.
sometimes forget it. It's a long name.
Yeah. I did that from when I was working on the census outreach. Okay. All right, and then I just used the same thing for the people with disabilities, and who should we list for potential presenters there?
I remember when we had, as I was saying, when we had a presentation about how the police department works with people who have hearing issues. And I don't remember what organization it was, but they came in and they talked about it. I have to try to maybe look online and see if I can find who that is. I can add that there.
How about UPAC? I think they work with many communities of color and I think primarily Asian, Filipino Americans and the Vietnamese community. I think it's called UPAC. Do you know that organization, Yasmin?
I'm not sure.
They're here in City Heights, actually, near El Cerrito. They've been around for a long
And
time.
Asian communities.
Pan-Asian, yeah. They have
Also Viet Voices.
Viet. Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
There's a
But
lot.
now you're back with refugees again?
Yeah. Sorry, I went back when I'm looking at disability justice kind of work in San Diego. To find orgs.
I'll look up the hearing thing we worked with.
I mean, a quick Google search and I don't know this org at all, so I would ask to get more info, but it looks like there's an org called the Arc of San Diego that does a lot of work around for people with disabilities.
UPEC also offers mental health. They have various programs there. They serve the Asian and Pacific Islander communities as well as surrounding communities located.
When you said mental health, I remembered, are you're recommending that to the panel above, right? Not here?
I
The
am,
UPAC
you pack, I mean, I mean, I know somebody that actually works there. She
Oh,
does a lot
shoot.
of she does community outreach. Pan Asian, Union of Pan Asian Communities.
Question. I know folks with mental health disorders are, for example, on college campuses, considered people with disabilities. Are we including mental health, folks with mental health issues under working with people with disabilities, or do we want to keep it above?
Let's go back and look at the above, see what the above says.
I don't know. I think the mental health one is such a big topic. And I know a lot of I don't say a lot, many of the issues that the police department deals with oftentimes have to do with either mental health or substance disuse issues. So I kind of feel like, although you're right, I almost feel like mental health is significant enough. We might want to keep that separate rather than lumping it in with a bunch of other topics.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. We're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
So maybe this one here is just really about human rights and law enforcement, and it's not about these other things, right? Like it's not about this part I just highlighted. Because PERT's about the mental health thing.
You could be right, yeah.
I think PERT, though, is providing a different perspective when it comes to mental health. I think there's a piece that would be missing is mental health professionals. What are they seeing in the county of San Diego? What are some of the best practices they know of? How are they, what are the best practices of working with people with mental health or mental health issues?
Well,
I
that would
don't know
be,
if that's covered in PERT's presentation.
yeah, I think it's more like NAMI because they're advocates of the mental health. They really push for legislation for human rights for mentally ill folks. Because I'm familiar with NAMI since I attended a lot of their meetings, for family members. They have peer-to-peer, they have all these programs, and they advocate for change in they're advocates. In other words, it's an advocacy organization, and they're all over the United States, by the way.
Right, but I'm wondering like what's relevant for the commissioners, because the training it's nice to expose people, it's nice to raise people's awareness, but I think we really need to focus on what do commissioners need to know to do our jobs.
Right. I see what you're saying. Well, don't they need a background on what a 5150? I mean, PERT can do that too, but also you need the perspective of folks that advocate for change too, that are spokespeople that go to Sacramento to make change for better laws to how to deal with committing their loved ones, since there are new laws in the books now, like Laura's Law that's been in effect, and also Care Court, which law enforcement has to come in contact with that because they need to get the person into, I guess there's a whole process of that. And it's kind of a legal issue now, but it is in the books since the governor signed that into law. It's called Care Court, and I'm sure you guys have read about it in the papers, where they can actually involuntarily commit a loved one, family member or whoever. The county takes conservatorship over that. It's quite complex, and I think that's sort of like I think I would like to understand it. I understand it because I've been involved in that a lot. But somebody from NAMI would really explain it in a very succinct way, in a very not very simplistic, but you know what I'm talking about, where a PERT person may not be able to do that. I mean, they probably need to have, know about the law too, and they might touch upon that. Who knows? They might overlap. Who knows? Because this is fairly new, this care court thing. Just saying.
And one of the things I kind of agree with Darlene is one of the pieces of pushback we've gotten from other commissioners is we don't want to have so many trainings that we have, 50 hours of classes. And so I think maybe what we need to do is we need to figure out what's the most important training that we want that would actually be part of our regular meetings. And then
Mhm.
maybe what we can do is, if there's other things where we want to have, kind of additional training that's optional, maybe we do,
Yeah.
a Saturday meeting or something like that. Because I think, your points are all completely valid. And I think,
Mm.
frequently you don't learn about it until you need to.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
kind of
true.
I know with substance abuse, I mean, that was, I really only learned about it when I had to deal with it because someone I cared about.
Right.
So maybe what we do is we find a way that we can offer those topics to people, but it's maybe not part of our regular Wednesday meetings. Because
Okay.
the other thing too is I know Chair Tran was really hoping, I think, for some of these topics we could have anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes. So we also shared with her some of these. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just too much to go
Right.
over in 20 minutes. So we might need, 30 to 45. But, I also know they're very sensitive to how many things we put on our agenda. They don't want our meetings going on for 4 hours. So I think we just have to be a little bit careful on that.
Yasmin, what were you wanting to
Yeah,
share?
muted again. Sorry. Can we have a NAMI member on with a panel where that deals with, which is back in, which one was that one? I mean, again, I guess it's just it's just a recommendation. If you can have contact from NAMI, to talk about, 5150 from the perspective of a patient, or they call it a consumer of mental health, or a family member. It's an interesting perspective to have. But that's, again, that would probably be in a panel situation, because you talked about a panel back a few minutes ago, which was, I don't know where it was. Is this the
I
panel
think
right here,
it's,
right?
this
It is
1A.
1A. Okay, we're still on 1A. Why am I thinking going back? So yeah, mental health. So that would be the panel. And can we just add that as a just suggestion? I mean, we don't it's not written in stone, right? We could put NAMI as one of the contacts if we can get somebody. I mean, there's always a chance that we can't get anybody from NAMI to come talk about a perspective from the consumer perspective or family perspective.
What I'm starting to think that this title here needs to be tightened up a little bit, but I want to hear, Yasmin's been very patient, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet for the rest of the, I don't know how many minutes we
I
have.
want your
Sorry.
perspective, Luca.
This is a topic that's very dear to my heart, as you know. So anyway, okay.
I wanted to add that I think part of it, to answer your original question, co-chair Momat, what is helpful for commissioners to learn about? I think a lot of times we need to learn about both sides of the story when it comes to the interaction. So PERT will focus on what is the process, what are the things that PERT does as an entity in the city of San Diego, how do they do it, what is their position, etc. But we're still, a lot of people in the community don't agree with the ways PERT operates, or the ways that 911, for example, like sends officers if PERT is sometimes not available, etc. So that perspective will be missing. And that perspective will give commissioners an opportunity to create policy recommendations. So I really do believe that that perspective is necessary, and that we should have it. I hear you though, that I think this panel has become very long. And I would agree with the recommendation of splitting it. Maybe one focuses on civil human rights, criminal justice piece, and another focuses on the communities that are impacted, specifically youth, mental health, maybe homeless or houseless individuals. I would support splitting it in that perspective.
All right, so we have a panel on civil or human rights and law enforcement, right? It's not really criminal justice. And then we have another one on I'll format this better. But we're talking about the civil rights of youth, right? The civil rights of mental health, the civil rights of, right? Is that what this is?
I don't know if only it's the civil rights. Part of me is like, what does that mean? I actually don't know. But what I see is like, what are the experiences of young people with law enforcement?
Yeah.
What's coming up in youth groups that we're not aware of, because majority of us are not young people and have not interacted with the police. So that's what I'm like, what are the experiences of people or advocates of mental health providers? What are they hearing from people with mental health and what is happening with them in police? That's what I'm kind of seeing. And I know this and the roundtable are kind of merging. I think one is still professional perspective and the other is individual impact.
So so then who stays up here in this list? And who moves down?
I'm looking up people's bios.
Go ahead.
Well, now I'm thinking like, wouldn't it be good to pair the advocates with the people impacted?
I think so.
So we have, we
That's why
might
I'm
have
kind of,
one presentation on youth, one presentation on mental health.
well, and I think some of these, I mean, like I don't, for example, like Tatiana Klein with the Office of the State Public Defender. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what she would want to speak about, and I'm guessing she probably has experience that covers multiple areas. So it wouldn't just be one. I mean, I would assume, but I'm thinking for that our new 1B, I think to what Lupe was saying, I think that's a perfect one for NAMI, obviously. I think, Yasmin, we can work with finding someone, you know, from specifically the, you know, the youth advocacy groups, to present on, you know, topics as it relates to how, you know, law enforcement impacts, you know, the youth community. I don't know, any other ideas?
Well, I'm just trying to focus it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think, okay, so there's a panel on, or a presentation, I don't know if it's a panel on anymore, but that's like, when we're talking about civil and human rights and law enforcement, I guess building on what the ACLU already provided to us, somehow something was missing there. And the other thing we have to remember is all of these titles originally came from whatever the interim commission did, whatever Charmaine did, and I just stuck it in here for us to consider, right? So I don't even know what this title means. I didn't make it up, right? So there's that point. Because as we're talking, what makes sense to me is we want to know human rights, like what are the human rights that law enforcement aren't supposed to infringe upon? Is that what we want to know? I don't know what we want to know.
Yeah, I think it's like human rights violations when it with law in law enforcement.
Pretty
I mean,
much.
Brandon, do you
Yeah.
remember what the discussions were with this topic when you guys were making that training academy list way back when?
Not exactly.
I mean,
Uh,
the videos are,
yeah.
the meetings are recorded, so you can totally
I'll
go
have to,
back.
I could go back and try to watch them. Yeah.
Because what makes sense to me, just talking this through, is like, what is the experience that youth are having with law enforcement? We'd like to know that. That's one session. What I wouldn't combine mental health with youth. I would, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, sometimes they're together. That's also true in the last case we had of the teenager and the 5150. It happens in some of
Right,
our
but
case reviews.
you wouldn't assume they would always overlap though. So that's why when we're learning about them, I think we would
Yeah.
want to learn about them separately.
Maybe, sure.
Because then also we're learning about, oh God, sorry, I'm making a seasick.
Okay.
Sorry.
Um,
Oh, here it is. It was up here further. Sorry. Wait. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was down lower.
because the
Anyway,
ACLU
we're
have,
past 7 too, you guys.
oh, okay. Because the ACLU also has a booklet for teenagers, for young people, what their rights are when they get stopped by the police. They even published one. My son had a copy of it. So, I don't know. There's some,
But anyway, I think like if we're doing people with disabilities separate and the
Uh-huh.
refugees and then the youth and then the mental health, those all seem separate to me.
I remember, I'm trying to remember what topic it was, but someone even recommended we could possibly even have Cop Watch come in and give a presentation. I think the only thing, my only
Is
thing on
that
that is,
related to human rights?
I mean, I think they would probably argue like what they're doing is they're filming, interactions with the police, and they're trying to document if an officer is doing something they shouldn't be doing. The only thing is, I would want to try to kind of narrow the topic. I don't want any of these to just become people just complaining about stuff. I'd rather it be more educational and informational of here are the things that we see that are not working well, rather than, having any group saying like, oh, cops are always horrible to kids, or they're always horrible to people with mental health issues or substance abuse issues or things like that. I want to try to make sure whatever we're doing is it's educational for the commission and the community. And not to say that I know the best way to do that, but and I try to remember who recommended Cop Watch, and it's escaping me, but I remember someone brought it up in the past.
And that was related to this civil rights, human rights, or was it related to the youth, or was it related to the mental health, or what one was it related to?
I would probably say, I think where it probably is most appropriate is probably this one here for just overall civil and
All
human
right.
rights, I think.
I agree.
Okay.
Criminal defense attorneys, do their work usually falls under civil and human rights?
There was something about the reason I put that she's with the Office of the State Public Defender is because that's what I found online, but I think she has other roles, and that's why I think, was it Kate that suggested her, Brandon?
Yeah.
She's
Kate
on
had,
maybe a board. She's on some board or something. I don't know.
so I can find the email. Kate had spoken to a friend of hers, and that friend had recommended Tatiana. And I'm gonna go back and try to find the email.
And sorry, just flagging, I'll have to hop off in a couple
Right.
minutes from my end.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah, because
we're after 7
agree.
anyway.
Yeah. So maybe we should just stop here for now. And if in the meantime, like, though, anybody who has information that can help tighten this up can just get in here and put their comments in, and we can talk about it next week.
So I just pulled up the email from Kate. So Tatiana had given a presentation to the Criminal Defense Lawyers Group. And so that's why she was recommended here. I don't know if that was just specifically as her role as a public defender or what.
So you know what I think would be helpful, Brandon, is if you could find out what was that presentation.
Sure.
So then we'd know more about
Yeah.
the content.
And would it be okay if we do a quick summary of what are the next steps for next meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page? What are we talking about, or what do we need to come back with?
All right. Come back with Brandon pre-screening for relevance that NACOL video.
For the implicit
Loopy and
bias, yep.
Yasmin examining other options for implicit bias training. Oh, I already did this one. But that, whatever. That's what we're waiting to hear from Captain Peterson about. I'm going to take care of this one. I'll edit this. And what? That's it. And then if anybody can come in, you know what? I'll try. What I would love is if we need more information to help tighten this up.
So I'll reach out. I'll find a contact for Tatiana, and I'll find out if I can get what her presentation was to the criminal
Okay.
defense lawyer group. And I can also reach out. I mean, I don't have a contact, but I'm sure I can find it for Genevieve and see if that's something she'd be interested in. And I can also reach out to Michelle Woodson and say, here's what we're trying to do. Is there something that you guys feel, you'd be able to have ideas or anything like that? I can reach out to them and share what we're trying to do.
Sorry, that's
Okay,
actually
do you know
Michelle.
enough about what we're trying to do? Because if I reached out, I wouldn't know what to say.
Well, I think part of it is we're trying to find ideas. I think it's part of it, but
what do we want? How do you know what we're asking? What do we want?
well, isn't the core idea of kind of how civil and human rights as it relates to criminal justice and how the police
Okay.
provide law enforcement onto the community is kind of what I think we're trying to do.
Okay.
It's actually Michelle Woodson. I dropped
Oh,
her
okay.
name. Yeah. I'm wondering if it would be helpful to invite Kate or Andrea to join us next meeting. I feel like us talking through this together has been really helpful, but I think if they are able to join and kind of chime in, that would be helpful too. What do folks think?
I feel like if anybody can give us guidance, because I'm just like stabbing in the dark here,
Yeah, I agree. We could invite them in the next meeting. That would be helpful. Anything would be helpful.
Okay, I can I'm happy to support with that.
Let me correct her name while I'm in here.
Thanks. Thank you.
I think we just assumed it was Michelle, so good correction.
Okay. All right. Did that give you what you wanted to know, Yasmin, for next week?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
And then for the panel of impacted community members, that's something that I think Commissioner Duane would be really beneficial to support with. So and I think it connects to also some of the work that me and him were gonna do last meeting. So I think once we get the get-go from you all about what the cabinet wants and how to move forward with that, we can have that clear too. I don't know if that made sense. Did it?
Yep, works for me.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, we went a little bit over, so thank you all for your time.
Sounds good. Thank you,
And-
everybody.
And where can we find this document? Are you going to email it, like where we can write in this Word document? Is it going to be in our file?
I can send you the link again. It's a link I sent before, but I
Oh,
can
yeah.
send it again.
I can find it again. I think it's in the email. Yeah. All right.
It's also, if you go to the committees folder,
oh,
there's
the
a training
committees,
folder.
there-
Yeah, and it's
okay.
just right in
That's
there.
right.
Cool.
I can
Thank
show
you.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I remember because yeah.
Training committee, and
Yes.
it's just this one here,
It's
the
right
bottom one
there.
that says.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. Thank you. All right, folks. Have a
right.
good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, thank you.
Bye-bye.